Welcome to Esoterica and Nonsense, a podcast where we discuss myths, legends, folk tales, fairy tales, supernatural phenomenon, and religions from around the world. I am your host, Annabelle, and today we will be discussing the mystical, incredible, ancient olive. Before there was bread and wine, there was the olive, bitter and ancient, pressed into oil and legend. This fruit has nourished gods, crowned kings, and sealed sacred covenants. Today we dive deep into the soul of the olive tree, following her roots through myth, ritual, and sacred story. Olives, baby. Part of why I wanted to talk about olives today is because Palestine is still being obliterated. There is a genocide happening. It is an active genocide that is being televised around the world for over 2 years. Actually, I guess coming up to 2 years. However, the genocide has been happening for many, many years. I'm heartbroken by this, but I think even more than heartbroken, I'm embarrassed on behalf of the human race. How can we teach our children to share and to be kind and to do unto others as we would want done unto us? How can we teach our children that violence is not acceptable when adults are actively consenting in murder en masse? It's embarrassing and it's unacceptable. What hurts the most is knowing that it's happening, and as an everyday average person, feeling like nothing I can do will be enough. And so this is really my petition to all human beings on the planet, all living things on the planet, for us to change how we show up as human beings. In my personal opinion, what matters the most is the health and longevity of our beautiful mother, planet Earth. I personally believe that we should be organizing our societies, our cities, our communities around working symbiotically with nature. Planting trees that work well with the region. With more trees, you get more precipitation. With more precipitation, you get more fresh water. We can build natural irrigation systems with no technology that water our plants. We can have living forests that are like supermarkets. You walk into the forest and you can pick a fruit that is ready to eat. You can pick a vegetable. We don't need to be farming. We can be planting agroforests that take almost little to no maintenance and living simply with the seasons. We can be relaxing, enjoying the seasons changing, and enjoying watching the young babies become children, and watching those children become adults, and watching those adults become elders, and thus the cycle continues. That's why we must shout out indigenous cultures. Obviously, the indigenous cultures of the Americas were light years ahead of the Europeans. But let us not forget that the Europeans had indigenous cultures years ago. They had ancestors that lived with the changing of seasons, that were worshiping trees, talking to the plants, talking to the animals. There are indigenous cultures in every aspect of the world, in every nook and cranny of the world, that at one point were communicating with nature. And it is an ability that lives within us all. And so I am asking the human race, every single human being, what if all of us woke up the next morning and just decided to put our energy into living peacefully with planet Earth? What if we put all of our energy and creativity into just planting trees and plants strategically and allowing them to do their thing, and we can sit back and relax? And minimum, we can stop murdering each other. How about that? Also, if you're new here, I want to be very clear that I am not pro-murder for anyone. No one, genocide is never okay. I don't care who it is that is being killed. I don't care who it is that's doing the killing. There's never an excuse. Genocide is not okay, point blank, period. If that's not okay with you, you can move along. You can leave, Napoleon. So without further ado, let's talk about olives, the ancient gift of the ancestors, the fruit of the ancient world, the botanical wonder boy, the olive. So obviously, when you think of an olive, I think when we all think of olives, we see common ideas, right? We have this idea of the olive branch, which is a peace offering, or even a dove holding an olive branch. Olive trees are kind of like an unspoken symbol of resilience, of peace, divine blessing, immortality, and victory. Also, olive oil is often a symbol of purification, consecration, sacred nourishment, and light. And obviously, these social understandings of olives have incredibly ancient roots. And it's fascinating how such ancient beliefs about any single thing can carry gravity into our modern world, even without hands-on knowledge or practice. So what I'm going to share with you today is going to blow your little mind, because let me tell you, there's so much about olives that I did not know. Perhaps you did know. Perhaps you know more than me. And if you did, please email in at esotericannonsense@gmail.com. So olives, as we know them, are a descendant of a wild olive that is known as the oleasters. Oleasters? Yes, let's say oleasters. So this is like the grandparent of the olive. And they were first recorded to be gathered by humans as early as 8,000 BC. Let that sink in. As early as 8,000 BCE. And in my experience, if the historians say that, add an extra 10,000 years. But let's just go with that. 8,000 BCE. That is 10,000 years ago, because right now it is the year 2025. Let's just say it started in 8,000 BCE. That is 10,000 years ago. That is a long time ago. And surprise, surprise, they were first cultivated around the Eastern Mediterranean. Just kidding, it's not a surprise. Most likely, the grandparent of the olive comes from modern-day Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, and the beautiful Palestine. We love you, Palestine. Bless you. So, most likely, the domestication of olives began in the Levant, which is modern-day Syria and Palestine, and this would have happened around the year 6,000 up to around 4,500 BCE. So we're still talking 8,000 years ago. This is a long time ago. This is full-on domestication, planting, breeding for qualities they liked. This is 8,000 years ago. By the year 3000 BCE, the Minoans in Crete had established a booming olive industry. So let that sink in. Crete, which is an island, also one of the most iconic places of the labyrinth. The Minoans were the same people who had that famous labyrinth. If you have not listened to the labyrinth episode, go back to episode 1. It's fantastic. Labyrinths are my favorite. They had a booming olive industry 5,000 years ago. Olive cultivation was one of the earliest large-scale agricultural enterprises on the planet, alongside grain and grapes. Olives are a pillar of the Mediterranean triad, being grain, grapes, and olives. Olives are the fruit of the ancestors. And of course, with that comes so many beautiful tidbits, pieces, beliefs, worship. And that is why we're really here today, as you all know. We're not a boy podcast that talks about money and power. We're a girly femme podcast that talks about esotericism and nonsense. Okay, so, of course, olives are now a booming industry in the ancient world, specifically the Eastern Mediterranean. It's spreading quickly. Other parts of the Mediterranean and the world are now getting a taste for olives. But with that comes a spiritual value, an economic value that were intertwined, much like most things in the ancient world. Spirituality, mysticism, esotericism was a part of daily life. So with that also held an economic power. Olive oil was not just a food or an oil. It was considered to be a medicine. It was used for lamps. It gave light. It was perfume. It was used as a sacred anointing fluid. It was used as a currency. Ancient peoples used olive oil for lighting lamps, not only in their homes, but in temples. They used it for lubricating their tools and machines. They used it for cooking and preserving their food. They used it for skincare and for treating wounds. And they used it for ritual purification and anointing priests, kings, and the dead. Olives and olive oil were a piece of their life, their livelihood, their bodies, and their spiritual belief. Where there was oil, there was civilization. So, as time is moving, right? So now we're in the Bronze Age. We're in the year 3000 BCE. Olive oil has become one of the most traded goods in the Mediterranean world. It is a part of daily life. And just as a reminder, the Bronze Age is from around 3000 to 1200 BCE. Okay, this is like 5,000 years ago that the Bronze Age is starting. The Mediterranean is eating olives, using olive oils. It is a part of everyday life. The major olive oil producing centers are Crete, the Minoans, aka Labyrinth people, the Mycenaeans of the modern day Grecian area, Phoenicia, which is now modern day Lebanon, Palestine, Syria, Carthage, which is in North Africa. Egypt was the biggest importer of olives, and Rome, which created vast olive estates in Hispania, North Africa, and Gaul, which would be Spain and France. Fun fact, I just want to throw this out here. I learned a really interesting tidbit the other day that I think is worth noting, especially because I think in the United States, everyone is obsessed with Rome, or maybe I should rephrase that, white men are obsessed with Rome. And I do think for good reason, mostly because the U.S., in my opinion, has kind of modeled their colonization model off of the ancient Romans. But I learned that in ancient Gaul, which is now France, there was a huge population of Celtic people, indigenous people from the British Isles, including Ireland, pieces of Scotland, and some of the other islands around it. Many of them had actually emigrated to Gaul throughout the centuries. And according to this piece of information that I read, there was up to 3 million people in Gaul who had Celtic ancestry. And during the time of Julius Caesar, he invaded Gaul, murdered 1 million of those, enslaved another million, and left the other million there to live on their land, which had been burned to the ground and then colonized. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I think that it has been forgotten that colonization has spread like a virus. And one thing that colonization often does, and especially in the modern sense of the term, is that it erases local culture. It seeks to erase local customs, languages, beliefs. I mean, I think the spiritual beliefs are a big part of that. And when I learned this, it blew my mind because, sometimes when I think of France, I think of the Louvre. I think of huge buildings. I think of people with hoity-toity attitudes. I think of Haiti. I think of French Polynesia. I think about all of the things that France has done involving the transatlantic slave trade and colonization. But I don't think about people 5,000 years ago who were enslaved and murdered. And I think it contextualizes this vicious cycle that seems to be repeating itself again and again and again of hurt people becoming the oppressor. How can you conceptualize freedom if you've never seen freedom? And so you think that the king is free. You think that the king is the only person with real freedom. So everyone wishes to be king. But by being king, you become someone who profits from genocide, someone who profits from enslavement, someone who profits from killing the earth. And in my mind, that isn't freedom at all. In my mind, freedom is waking up with nothing expected of you and choosing what you want to do with that day. And with real freedom comes the access to explore yourself. Explore yourself multidimensionally. Explore the world multidimensionally. Even if you're just staying in one little place your whole life, you could be staying in one little corner of the forest. But with real freedom, there are endless possibilities. And anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because I do think it's really interesting that Rome colonized Spain and France and used them as places to grow olives. That's what we call monoculture. And interestingly enough, Spain, Portugal, and France, and of course England has done the same. They have colonized so many parts of the world and used them for monoculture and extracting resources. Isn't that funny? Let's take a little break.
Hey, little Pepper. This is Annabelle here, reporting live from Pepper World HQ. If you enjoy the podcast, it would help so much if you could follow me. You could write a comment, give me 5 stars perhaps. Also, I would love to hear from you. Email in at esotericaandnonsense@gmail.com. I'd love to hear about your stories. I'd love to hear about suggestions. I would love to hear about any kind of weird, freaky thing that comes to your mind. Also, if you would like to support my podcast, you can follow me on Patreon. It's Patreon.com/esotericaandnonsense. I will also have a YouTube page coming at you so soon. And I also sell merch. You can look up my merch. It's in the show notes for every single episode, as well as the show notes for my show. I appreciate you so much. I made this podcast to connect with cool, freaky people like you. So thank you so much.
And we're back. Yes, darling. Okay, so here we are. We're in the ancient world. We're in the Bronze Age. Olives are being grown all around the Mediterranean. Everyone's eating them. The Egyptians are importing them. Imagine just beautiful, hot women laying on their side and just eating olives in the warm Mediterranean sun. Take me there. On top of that, now olives have become a huge booming industry because of the oil. We talked about it. The olive oil is a huge commodity, especially as the Roman and Byzantine empires are growing. Olive oil is used in oil lamps. So this is light. This is what's kind of extending the productivity of every empire, being able to stay up at night with lanterns, with light, right? So now in the Bronze Age, olives are being heavily taxed and regulated, right? Olives are money. There was these ceramic oil containers known as amphorae, which were marked and tracked like gold. We're talking serial numbers. We're talking tracking numbers. We are talking liquid gold, right? Olive oil is money. And cities and ports were built around the olive trade, such as Pompeii, Carthage, and Athens. In some regions, olive oil was used instead of money to pay taxes and debts. In Rome specifically, control over olive oil production was as crucial as control over grain. Losing access to olive oil could de-establish entire populations. Let that sink in. And of course, this is just the economic significance. And if we know anything about Rome, if they have something regulated and taxed, there's also esoteric power with that object. Whatever is being taxed is also a magical object. And let me remind you that the tree of Delphi is an olive tree. So let's get into the mythical and royal powers of olives and the practices around it, because that's why we're really here. So in the ancient Near East, this would be what we now call the Middle East, olive oil was used to anoint kings and priests. The olive oil itself symbolized divine favor. In the Hebrew Bible, there are passages that speak of kings and prophets being anointed with oil. Interestingly, this is actually where the word Messiah comes from. Messiah comes from the Hebrew word Mashiach. I'm probably saying that wrong, but it's in my English brain, this looks like Mashiach. And this word means anointed one, specifically anointed with oil, specifically olive oil. So now you can whip that out at a party. The word Messiah means anointed with olive oil. In Greece, olive wreaths were given to Olympic victors. I can say this word. I can say it. The Panathenaic Games, in honor of Athena, awarded one of those giant ceramic vessels full of sacred olive oil as a prize. So basically, if you won these games, they were kind of like a small Olympics in Athens, you would win this giant ceramic vat of olive oil, and it would be worth a small fortune. It's like winning a prize, like a $20,000 prize. In Christianity, olive branches and olive oil symbolize peace, light, and divine presence. They are used in sacraments such as baptisms, confirmations, and last rites. So, because of this, olives are kind of center stage in society, right? You're using them to baptize your children. You're using them in ceremonies, and they're also now being controlled by the government and taxed. So in ancient Athens, the original olive tree was said to be a gift of Athena. So Athena allegedly gave an olive tree to the city that became Athens, and it was said to have sprung from the ground during her battle with Poseidon. And so this olive tree was protected by law. Harming it would lead to either exile from the city and very possibly death. Athens' wealth was partially built on olive oil exports, and olive oil supported both local economy and religious diplomacy. In parts of Rome and Carthage in North Africa controlled a huge part of North Africa because of their monopoly on olive oil. After the Punic Wars, Rome claimed Carthage and its groves and created a supply line that helped Rome dominate for centuries. Like, let that sink in. The olive industry was financing Rome. And I just think this is so interesting. There are so many parallels to the sugar industry, the tobacco industry, and the cotton industry, right? European countries colonizing other lands and growing a cash crop and using it to fund whatever they want. And really what they wanted was to spread their empire, to keep colonizing. And how interesting, right? This is the same business model. This is a fucking business model. And it's really bad for the earth, and it's really bad for humanity. I just like, it really does get me going. I'm sorry. Like, we're literally repeating the same cycles again and again. And it's kind of embarrassing, but also fascinating, because why aren't we talking about this? I feel like in school, when I learned about ancient Rome, it was all very like learning about each emperor. You know, we like learn about the emperor and like what he did. But we're not really thinking about the day-to-day life of a regular person. And this is just my opinion, but I think if you actually study the day-to-day life of a person in any given civilization, that is the opportunity to learn so much more, you know? For example, what would a regular person in Rome be eating for lunch? And that begs the question, in the city of Rome or in the empire of Rome, because Rome was at a certain point massive. But olives are a center point of the culture and economy. And I think it's like a missing link that we don't talk about enough. Rome was being funded by the olive industry and the wine industry. And that, my friend, that is huge. Okay, so moving on. In the Islamic world, the Quran mentions the blessed olive tree. Many Muslim empires cultivated olives widely, especially in Spain, as they eventually, obviously, the Moors colonized Spain, and they used Spain as an olive orchard, essentially. Olive oil was also vital in the Islamic world because it was used in sciences, particularly in creating medicine. And it was used in mysticism during the Islamic Golden Age. It kind of makes me think of like Zoroastrians and ritual rites and healing. Of course, now in the modern day world, olives are still a huge player in the economies of Spain, Italy, Greece, Turkey, Tunisia, Morocco. They are still huge olive producers. And of course, Palestine had some of the oldest living olive trees in the world, and they were destroyed by the IDF using phosphorus bombs. These trees were over 2,000 years old, and they were priceless. I just want that to sink in for you. Of course, to this day, olive oil is still seen as a luxury good and a sacred offering. We all know about virgin, extra virgin standards echoing really the ancient world and old purity rituals. Olive groves are protected as cultural heritage in parts of the Mediterranean, especially trees over 1,000 years old. And sadly, the olive trees in Palestine we did not protect, and they have been destroyed. So, for this reason, olives have a multidimensional power and presence. Obviously, there is a political power within olives. Whoever controlled olive oil and olive production controlled lighting, they controlled food, they controlled healing. Obviously, there's also a mystical power. Allegedly, the olive trees were gifts from the gods. They were wept from the goddesses, anointed upon kings. They were even used in sacred rites, from death into birth, war into peace. And then, of course, the economic power. Empires growing from olive production itself. Olives being the lifeblood of trade and commerce. It's crazy. Am I right? It's fucking crazy. Okay, so now let's get deeper. I teased you, and let's really get into the mysticism, baby. So, of course, the myth that we've already touched on is the myth of Athena and the olive tree. Athena and Poseidon competed to be the patron of Athens, and they went through many tasks. They were fighting. They were trying to kill each other. They both wanted to be the patron of Athens. And of course, at this point, it wasn't even called Athens. Athens is named after Athena, so this is an unnamed city. Athena and Poseidon are fighting. Poseidon offers salt water in some versions of the story, or offers a horse to the city. Athena offers an olive tree, and the people of the city chose the olive tree. And because of that, they accepted Athena as their patron goddess and named the city Athens. The olive tree thus became a symbol of wisdom, of civilization, and of feminine creation. Her sacred tree grew on the Acropolis. The olive became central to Athenian economy and worship. Then, of course, over in Rome, there was Pax, there was victory and virginity. There was wreaths that they would make of olive branches that were worn by the victors and emperors. So anytime somebody won a contest or won in the Olympic Games, or an emperor became anointed, they would wear a wreath, a little crown of olive branches. It was also used in religious purification rites and in the lamps of vestal virgins, so of temple girls. They would use the highest grade olive oil in their lamps. Interestingly, there's also a lot of crossover in Judaism and Christianity, but of course, olive oil is used in the anointings of kings and priests, like I mentioned, messiahs in Judaism. And there is a little snippet of Psalm 52:8. I am like a green olive tree in the house of God. And of course, in Christianity, olive branches are seen as the sign of peace and reconciliation, because on Noah's Ark, a dove leaves his ship and returns with the leaf of an olive. And that is literally where we get this symbol of the dove carrying the olive branch. It comes from the Bible with Noah. Also, Jesus himself prayed under an olive tree in the Garden of Gethsemane. I don't really know how to say that. Gethsemane. Interestingly, this word Gethsemane means olive press. Think about that. So Jesus was literally in a place that was called olive press. So it was most likely a huge olive oil producer, most likely in Palestine, and he prayed under an olive tree. This could very possibly be the olive grove that was recently destroyed in Palestine that's 2,000 years old. Jesus was there praying under those trees. Let that sink in, bitch. Olive oil was also used in sacraments, baptisms, confirmations. Olives were a part of the ancient world. And of course, they are mentioned in the Quran as well. The Quran references that the, quote, blessed olive tree as a cosmic symbol of divine light, lit from the oil of a blessed olive tree, neither of the east nor of the west. The olive tree is considered sacred. It represents guidance, nourishment, and light. The Prophet Muhammad said, "Eat olive oil and anoint yourselves with it, for it is from a blessed tree." Literally, I could cry. I could cry. It's so beautiful. Also, its influence, of course, spread all throughout the ancient world. In parts of the Western Mediterranean and the Balkans, olive branches hung on doors and on baby cradles to ward off the evil eye. In Crete, brides would circle an olive tree before the wedding. In parts of Spain and southern Italy, folk healers used olive oil in diagnostic rituals. They would use oil drops to scry and detect curses. If you don't know, scrying is when you look at a surface and kind of go into a trance state. So you can look at a mirror or the surface of water. So they would use oil to scry with. They would also use olive oil for anointing bodies to break hexes or to invoke protection. In the Sufi and Gnostic traditions, olive oil is used in meditative rituals. It is seen as a carrier of subtle divine intelligence. It's just so magical. And I think we forget this. I really think that we forget this. Even in parts of the ancient world that were fully colonized, there was still so much more interaction with the world around them, specifically with things like plants and animals. They are magic. They're alive. And I think about over the course of the last 2,000 years, how societies have become almost like wage prisons, and that everyday people aren't really engaging in ceremony. They aren't engaging in plants and animals unless they are a part of a working religion. And even still, it seems that the meaning behind these things have been lost. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I obviously think it's a symptom of colonization. I'm just really sad by it. I'm really sad. Plants are magical, and I talk to plants, and I love plants. And plants have changed my life. Specifically smoking weed. When I started smoking weed, it changed my life because I forgot that I could talk to plants. And when I started getting stoned in high school, I started talking to plants again. And if you listen, they talk to you. They know so much, and they're so kind, and they're so special. And I have a longing to live in a world where we together communicate with plants and communicate with nature. I wish that I was raised in a society where my elders were anointing me with magical oils, and my elders were teaching me about the secrets of the plant world and teaching me how to communicate with them. I wish I lived in a society like that. Let's take a quick break.
Planet Earth can be a terrifying place sometimes. Why is that? Because of humanity. Human beings. However, I would like to remind you that planet Earth is a beautiful planet, and a big reason why is because of plants. Plants are amazing. Plants are so magical. Plants are the original OG life force on this planet. Plants can heal us, and plants necessitate our health. This is your reminder. Maybe you should plant a plant this year. If you're worried about plants, maybe you can have a succulent, like an agave. Agaves are amazing because it's almost impossible to kill agaves. And you can use them on your skin. You can use them if you have a sunburn. You can use them for moisturization. You can actually drink the pulp if you ever have a cold. Plants are incredible. The list goes on. You already know. But research some plants. Plant a house in. Plant a house? No. Plant a plant within your house. Maybe plant a tree outside of your house. If everyone on Earth planted a tree today, that would be almost 8 billion more trees. Let's do this as a team, baby.
And we're back, darling. Okay, let's talk about some really cute magical aspects, some deities, and some folk tales about olives, because I feel like this has been so much academic info, and we're all here for the stories. So some honorable mentions before we get into our folk tales. Obviously, we talked about Athena. Athena is an olive goddess, but also Demeter and Persephone have some olive crossover. Demeter is obviously more associated with grain and being the goddess of the grain harvest. However, during the festivals that people would celebrate for Demeter and Persephone, they would often use olive oil in their anointing rituals, both to burn their lanterns, but also to anoint each other. And olives were a specific part of the Eleusinian Mysteries offering. We did talk about that in a previous episode. I highly recommend you listening to the Persephone episode if you have not. But olives were very present and a part of the offering, and that's worth noting. Also, Minerva, who was a Roman goddess, she was the Roman equivalent of Athena, of course, is depicted with olives as well. And another honorable mention would be Mary, who is known as the mother of Jesus Christ. Mary is sometimes symbolized as an olive tree. She is a symbol of righteousness and of mysticism. And olive oil is used in Marian anointing rituals in certain Catholic traditions. Worth noting. Okay, but now let's get into the meat. This is what we're really here for. So this is a folktale from Greece known as the cursed olive tree. Long ago, in a small village on a sun-soaked island in ancient Greece, this village was located by the Aegean Sea, and there stood a gnarled, silver-leaved olive tree at the edge of the town square. The elders said that it had been planted by Athena herself. Each year, the villagers held a small festival beneath its shade, lighting oil lamps and offering honeyed bread in gratitude. But one year, a man named Diodorus returned to the village, and embittered by years of misfortune. His crops had failed, and he had grown suspicious of the old ways. He scoffed at the offerings and mocked them in a tree. "This old stump brings no coin, no crop. If the goddess cared, she would have spared my suffering," he spat. One night, drunk on homemade wine and fury, he took his axe and chopped the sacred olive tree down. Stupid boy. The next morning, the townspeople found the tree fallen. Birds had vanished from the square. The air felt hollow. Diodorus laughed, and he said, "Now we can plant something useful." But the curse was already at work. This fucking idiot. That spring, his fields bore no grain. His goats fell ill. Rain refused to fall over his land while his neighbors thrived. Yeah, bitch, that's right. Each night he dreamed of a woman in a bronze helmet, her gray eyes watching him in silence, disappointment heavy in her gaze. Oh my God, that's so cunty. She's literally visiting him in his dreams and just giving him the stare of shame. Ugh. Yes, this fucking idiot. Jesus. Like, if there's an ancient tree, be nice to it, you fucking loser. Do you know what this is reminding me of? Like, this is kind of reminding me of the Christmas ritual. Like, yeah, if you haven't listened to the Christmas episode, I highly recommend. But basically, in parts of Europe, they would decorate trees and leave offerings at trees during the darkest time of the year as like a prayer to like bring a meaningful harvest and to bring good luck and to basically like worship the trees because the trees give life and they give food and they give shelter. And like, how crazy is it that that became a fad? And then like, basically what I'm getting at is like how feminine, how obviously a woman came up with this idea of like leaving offerings at trees and like decorating them and treating them with love. And then only a man could think of turning that into an industry where you chop the fucking tree down to decorate it in your house and then throw the tree away. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, tell me a man did it without telling me a man did it. Like the modern Christmas tree industry. And that's what this is reminding me of. This like fucking idiot guy is like, oh, this beautiful, sacred, ancient tree in my village, it's not making me money. I'm going to just cut it down because it's useless to me. Like, you fucking idiot. Meanwhile, this goddess is just disgusted with him in his dreams. I'm living for this story. Have modern men learned? No. Okay, so now he's being visited in his dreams, and he withered like the tree he had destroyed. Yes. Eventually, the man vanished. Some say he wandered into the hills seeking forgiveness. Others say he was turned into stone. The villagers planted a new olive tree in the same spot, and to this day, they say it leaves whisper warnings in the wind. Do not mock the sacred. The old spirits remember, even when we forget. That's right, bitch. Stop killing the olive trees. I don't even want to think about the amount of bad fortune they've amassed by murdering all those olive trees. Jesus! Let's just be nice to the trees. We should be decorating them and telling them we love them and bleeding onto them with our menstrual blood and talking with them, asking what they want. Be nice. It's really not that hard. It's literally so much easier to be kind and love plants. Also, if you listen to them, their advice is really good. It usually has to do with relaxing and focusing more on listening and planting more plants. Have you seen that theory that like plants are actually farming us because we give them carbon dioxide and we fertilize them when we die, and that we're actually basically like, we just spread their seeds and cultivate them, and that's what they want? I should actually do a whole episode. I have a whole crazy like theory about how plants are farming us, so stay tuned. Okay, folktale number 2. This is an Italian folktale called The Olive Girl. Oh my God. Can't wait. I'm an olive girl. I don't know if you're watching this on YouTube, but I am wearing my olive green dress. So I am an olive girl today. This story takes place in southern Italy, in the rural countryside, in a place that cultivated olives. So here we are in the countryside in an ancient olive grove. There once was a farmer named Lupo who lived alone after his wife passed away. Every year he tended his ancient olive grove, but the trees no longer bore fruit. One day, while pruning a knotted old olive tree, he found a strange, shiny olive, unlike any he had seen before. It was large, glistening, and seemed to hum in his palm. He was moved by instinct. He planted it into the soil beneath the tree. Weeks passed, and one morning he returned to the spot and he saw a small girl sitting where the olive had been planted. Her eyes were the color of green gold. Her hair was the shade of olive leaves. Get out of town. This is reminding me of Kaguya. Who are you? He said. I am from the tree, she replied simply. Oh my God, I'm going to cry. He took her in and raised her like his own. She never ate much. She only sipped dew and olive oil. Get out of town. Wherever she walked, trees blossomed. The grove returned to life. I'm in love with her. Oh my God. But she had one condition. No one was to ever try to take her photo or capture her likeness. Years passed and people began to talk. She must be a fairy, they said. Tourists offered Lupo money to see her. One day, a stranger sneaked a photograph. Come on, you fucking bitches. The next morning, she was gone. Yeah, no, come on. In her place, an olive tree stood, its trunk slender and youthful. From its branches hung golden green olives unlike any other. They say her spirit lives in that tree, and that the oil from its fruit can heal broken hearts. Some beings belong to the land. To try to own them is to lose them. That is so true. That is too true. I love the olive girl. I want to be the olive girl. These are so precious, these olive stories. I could cry. Next, we have a Berber legend. The Berbers are from North Africa. This legend is called the Goddess's Tears. Oh my God. I can already tell I'm going to love this story. The olives born of sorrow. This takes place in the Atlas Mountains long, long ago. In the time before time, there was a goddess named Tislit. Sick. Tislit. I love that name. Tislit, who watched over the mountains and the desert people. She walked among them unseen, blessing the herders and singing to the stars. But, alas, war came. Tribes turned against each other and blood soaked the earth. Tislit was heartbroken. She stood atop the highest mountain and she wept. Her tears fell onto the rocky soil, and from each tear a small dark fruit sprang. The people, desperate and starving, saw these fruits and ate them, though they were very bitter. Then one night an old woman dreamed of the goddess. Press the fruit and light it, she told them. She woke. She pressed the olives and placed a drop of oil in a clay lamp. It burned for 7 days and 7 nights. This is sounding a little bit like Hanukkah, baby. She woke, pressed the olives. Oh, I already read that. Oh, pause. Some people believe that in the Hanukkah myth, olive oil was used, and I just want to bring that up. Okay, carry on. Peace slowly returned to the land. The olive became sacred, a gift born of grief, but transformed into light. Today, Berber women still sing songs to Tislit during the olive harvest. And some say, if you cry under the olive tree in grief, your tears will never be wasted. Even in sorrow, when honored, can become a blessing. This is so fresh. I want to grow olive trees. Okay, and lastly, we have a Balkan folk tale. The olive tree that remembered. This takes place in Montenegro, in a coastal village. There once was a woman named Mila, whose husband was lost at sea. Each day she walked to the ancient olive grove by the cliffs and lit a candle under a tree they had carved their initials into. Years passed and she grew old, but she never stopped visiting the tree. Oh, and she missed her husband who was lost at sea. One winter, she fell ill and could no longer walk. The villagers carried her to the olive grove, and she placed her head on the tree. That night, a great storm struck, but the tree remained standing while the others fell. In the morning, her body was gone. In its place, new branches had grown in the shape of arms, reaching skyward. That spring, the tree bore thousands of olives for the first time in 70 years. They say the tree remembered her love, her ritual, her grief, and gave fruit in return. Trees remember those who love them. They bloom not just with the sun, but with the devotion of its loved ones. I'm telling you, and that's why I'm trying to tell you, love the trees. Love is the most powerful thing. And when you love the trees will bloom extra. We can literally heal the world with love. It sounds like it's corny. It sounds like it's a fantasy, but it's so fucking true. Love is the most powerful spell in existence, people. Come on. Come on. Oh, yeah. Let's take a quick break, baby girl.
Hello, traveler. Have you forgotten that you are an incredible, one-of-a-kind pepper? There is no one on planet Earth like you. Do you know how incredible that is? Never forget it. It might take time. It might take practice, but whatever your dreams are, you can attain them. Yes, you can, and you know that it's true. I believe in you. I'm so proud of you. One step at a time, and you're going to make it.
And we're back, darling. Let's get into the most exciting of all. Let's talk about the sensual and spicy legacy of olives and olive oil. Yeah, babe, we're going there. This is a shout out to my curious, carnal, and pervy listeners. I'm just kidding. I don't mean to call you pervy. I'm just reaching out to my sensual and sexual baby girls. Let us talk about olive oil orgies and Greco-Roman body worship. Let's talk about it. Olive oil was the original body gloss, babe. In ancient Greece, especially during festivals like the Dionysia and the Panathenaea, young men and women would anoint their bodies with oil before participating in ritual dances, athletic contests, and erotic revels honoring gods such as Dionysus, Aphrodite, and Eros. Yes, people would rub each other down with olive oil and have giant orgies and or have exercising competitions or have a dance party or have all three. I'm telling you. Greek athletes, especially, let's just say nude athletes, they would often compete naked. They would cover themselves in olive oil to show off their physique and to symbolize their divine favor. And after wrestling or racing, they would scrape the olive oil from their body combined with their sweat and dust, and they would put them into little containers, and they called them gloios. And so these athletes would then sell these like little vials of the oil and their sweat and dust and sell them to fans. And they said that this would be a potent love or healing charm. How's that for merch? That's hot. That is fucking hot. Also, olive oil was considered to be an aphrodisiac, and it was used as a sensual massage oil during basically orgy festivals, and they were dedicated to both Pan and Dionysus. How hot is that? Also, in the secret rites of Bacchus in Rome, known as the Bacchanalia, participants would be bathed in oil before ecstatic dancing and sometimes orgies. How fun is that? You just get covered in oil and have a dance party and then an orgy? Like that, this is how it's done, people. This is how it's done. And olive oil is so good for your skin. I'm telling you, like, can we bring this back? Interestingly, olive oil was also a very common funeral rite. It accompanied the dead on their journey across time and space. In Egypt, interestingly, tombs were often found containing olive oil vessels. These would be offerings for the afterlife. The oil was believed to preserve the soul, which they called the ka, and it ensured that the deceased would smell sweet in the afterlife. Also, in ancient Greece and Rome, corpses were anointed with olive oil during preparation for burial, symbolizing purification, divine favor, and beauty, even in death. Oil lamps were lit in tombs and kept burning to guide the human soul home. In some funeral games held to honor the dead, winners were awarded olive oil vats. These offerings of the spirit of the deceased. Wait, I'm so sorry. My brain right now. This offering the spirit of the deceased wealth and glory in the next life. So basically, you could win olive oil that you would take with you into your afterlife. Also, in Christianity, there is the last rites, also known as the extreme unction, and they would use olive oil to anoint the sick or dying, sealing the soul with divine light. In early Christian catacombs, they contained graffiti of olive branches and olive vessels, which was a prayer for eternal peace. How magical is that? Also, like I mentioned, olive oil has been used for scrying. It has been used to mix with herbs, to create tinctures, candles, to put over doorways, to anoint lovers for love spells. In Sicilian magic, olive oil was rubbed on the skin to invoke love and ward off spirits. It has been used for protection and exorcisms. It's even mentioned in the Bible and the Kabbalah that olive oil was used to cast out demons and to anoint holy warriors and prophets. Moroccan women would soak rose petals and cinnamon bark in olive oil and create love potions and pleasure oils. The oil was warmed and used in sensual massages, and they would prepare the body for ritual sex and fertility rites. Olive oil was not just sensual, it was supernatural, a divine lubricant between worlds. How hot is that? Also worth mentioning that in a lot of Greek and Arab myths, the olive tree was a symbol of love and union. Lovers would often consummate their union under an olive tree, believing that the spirit of the tree would bless their union with fertility. In Sapphic poetry also, the olive grove is a sacred lesbian love site. We love that. Lesbians for olives. In the Song of Songs in the Hebrew Bible, the beloved is described with metaphors of oil and trees. Quote, "Your name is like perfume poured out. Your body is a garden of pomegranates and olive shoots." Kill me. That is so beautiful. In both Lebanon and Palestine, there's folklore that says couples married under ancient olive trees would stay bound for 7 generations. That's so beautiful. It's also interesting to note that the olive pit is seen as a symbol of a womb or a vaginal symbol. And the oil is often seen in its viscous, golden, and slow-moving state it's seen as sexual fluid, like quite literally a symbol of sexual fluids, and compared to sexual fluids in the Sufi, Gnostic, and Tantric traditions. The pressing of olives became symbolic of divine ecstasy through pressure and surrender, the metaphor of love, labor, transformation, fertility. Olives have had a huge impact on human culture. And though today we may not think about them or be using them, it is important to note how big of an impact that olives have had on human culture. The fact that even now you can look at a symbol of an olive branch and know that it means peace. You can see a white dove carrying an olive branch, and these seem to just be symbols that we all know. And they come from rituals and beliefs that are 10,000 years old. Olives helped shape the modern world. Olives are an integral part of our human history, and they are magical, they are medicinal, and they are special. And let us not forget that there are still olive trees alive right now that are thousands of years old, and they are worth saving. Let's not be like that idiot in that one story who chopped down ancient olive trees. We're doing it around the world. We're chopping down ancient trees and not thinking about it. Sometimes because we're just being silly and negligent, and sometimes it's out of hatred. It's unacceptable. Let's start planting trees. Let's start protecting trees. Let us go back into union of communicating with the plants and animals, enjoying the plants and animals, worshiping the plants and animals. This is a magical paradise planet. We have everything we need here. We need to get over ourselves. We need to end human on human violence and enjoy the beautiful paradise that is planet Earth. Olives are magical. You are magical. We can do this. I love you. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I deeply, deeply appreciate you. And I'm reminding you, please email in. Send me some stories. Send me some weird stories that you heard as a kid. Tell me about a weird dream you have. Tell me about some weird visions you've had. Tell me about aliens that you saw once. I want to hear it all. I appreciate you. I love you. I adore you. Please take good care of yourself. You are an important asset to planet Earth. We're all here to love and enjoy and grow. Keep up the good work, babe. I'll see you next time. Over and out.